And joining me now is Sharath Srinivasan, a Africa and human rights specialist from Cambridge University. Thank you so much for your time. The situation in Sudan is clearly unsustainable. What do you fear is going to happen next?
Well, as your reporter has indicated, the level of human suffering is as bad as it has ever been and is only getting worse. That's not sustainable for the people who are experiencing this conflict. They're really at the brink now. What is clear is that both of the sides have dug in and both believe that they can win. General Burhan, the Sudan Armed Forces, Hemeti, the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, both are of a view that they will prevail, and that is posing, a real danger to where this conflict now goes from here. So in a sense, 1 month later, it is much worse because it didn't stop earlier than this. Neither side saw sense.
Which international actors are backing which side, and what is at stake for those foreign actors?
Well, this is an important question. In the context of Sudan's transition, a lot of actors in the region have had an interest. So on the one hand, if we take the Sudan Armed Forces led by General Burhan, ostensibly the current head of state as such, he has strong backing from Egypt. Egypt has seen since the fall of President al-Bashir in 2019 that Burhan might be the safest pair of hands. And for Egypt, Sudan is tremendously important. They're very concerned about the Nile waters, which flow mostly from Ethiopia, where Ethiopia is building a large dam, and the disputes over how that will affect the flow of water into Egypt, on which it desperately depends, is something that really concerns Cairo, and Cairo is eager to have Sudan on side. So on that front, we're seeing now soaring food prices in Egypt. Instability in Sudan matters greatly, and Egypt has been clearly behind Burhan. On the other hand, the Rapid Support Forces with Hemeti support from Libya, General Haftar in Libya, clear connections there, and also to the United Arab Emirates. This relates back to the period when a large number of the RSF fighters were taking part in the war in Yemen under UAE patronage, but also to gold production that they control in Sudan, of which the UAE is a beneficiary.
And the longer this conflict continues, the further it's going to destabilize the region. Is there a chance that neighbouring countries will basically be drawn into this conflict, in that we will see soldiers from Sudan's neighbours on the streets of Khartoum and elsewhere?
I'm not sure that final outcome is by in any sense necessary, and hopefully will be well and truly averted. But the other regional countries are indeed drawn in. They're drawn in already, as I explained, with Egypt. If we take Chad, for example, Chad is very destabilized by the level of insecurity that has flowed from this crisis in Western Darfur. It's a long border with Western Darfur. It's an area of considerable insecurity at the best of times, but the violence has tremendously escalated in that area and really had a harsh impact on civilians. That leads to flows of refugees across the border into Chad, but also insecurity in terms of the movement of armed fighters. So Chad is very destabilized. South Sudan has a strategic interest in what's happening in Sudan because the oil pipeline from its oil production flows through Sudan to Port Sudan, where it goes out for export. So South Sudan is very nervous about that. And obviously a large number of refugee flows into South Sudan, which itself is a very fragile state. So in all of those circumstances, what is worrying is that actors might seek to draw in these neighboring states where it suits them. And that might be the conflict parties themselves, or it might be other groups within the country that are trying to navigate this, this uncertainty towards their advantage.
Sharath Srinivasan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you again so much for your time.
Pleasure.